Ernie Harker, Defining Success by Silencing the Dreamkiller, a brand enthusiast journey, AI marketing and branding insights. Tune in for this must-see interview with Ernie Harker, a genuine brand enthusiast who shares how he redefined success by silencing the dreamkiller. Outside of his incredible story, Ernie shares insightful revelations about the convergence of AI, marketing, branding, and the resilience that it takes to redefine success that you can't afford to miss. Peer into the future of these fields through the eyes of an industry veteran. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness driven ride. Welcome. Let me share a little bit more about the guests that we have here today. Ernie Harker is a motivational speaker and brand development enthusiast with over 20 years of experience. A lover of diverse activities from drawing to wakeboarding, he's also known for his unique life experiences, including dining with Chuck Norris. He uses these experiences to inspire others to achieve their full potential. I am so pleased to welcome Mr. Ernie Harker.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too, because there is so much that we get to talk about, and you show up so beautifully. You're certainly the branding expert, and I've seen some of the stuff that you have where you've created these videos and you dress up and you have props that it's just like, it's incredible. It's very enlightening and very inspiring to motivate others to really create their unique branding. So, but let's dive in, because I know that you got a story behind this. But let's share with the audience a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. A little bit about me. I started as an illustrator because when I was 11 years old, my mom put the TV in the garage. There was no TV, no Atari, no Starsky and Hutch, no Gilligan's Island, So I spent that time that I would normally spend watching TV, and I spent it drawing. I love to draw. And so in high school, every elective class I could get, I was drawing or painting or whatever. And so that led to a career that began in illustration. And then that career began as a illustrator for the ad agency business. I started my own thing, developed design skills, Photoshop skills, interactive design, TV commercials, TV production, radio commercial production, TV shows. Oh my gosh, it was like an explosion of creative, fun production. So that's a little bit. Oh, and I love doing yoga. Like you're a whole. I know that you're about health and wellness, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. And so I got into yoga a few years ago because I was a triathlete that could not touch my toes.
I was going to say stretching. You need to stretch.
Oh my gosh. And it changed my life. So I probably do yoga 2 to 3 times a week. I do strength training almost every day. And I mix cardio in there. So physically, that is my foundation. I cannot do anything. I can't have my energy. There's no clarity of thought without my foundation of physical well-being. So that's about me.
Oh, well, I love it. So you really jumped in from the lack of TV that you had as a child and just dived right into that industry. Like, I'm going to create it. I think that's really cool where you really did take that and run with it because of that lack, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting how we show up as adults or throughout our lives because of certain things like that have moved us so much
Yeah.
and inspired us to do something with it.
Yeah. I could have been a victim. I could have said, man, I hate my parents. They took out the TV. I had a miserable childhood. But it's like, I think it's a choice. You have to make a choice. Like, what am I going to do? And how am I going to respond to whatever life throws at you? And so for me, I kind of got this innate productivity disorder. I have to be productive. I have to do something good with my time. In so much so, I mean, candidly, my wife hates sitting down to like watch TV or unwind with me because I will spend half an hour looking for something that is worthy of my time, that is inspirational, it's thought provoking, it's entertaining, or whatever. And my wife goes, "Can we just like do a spinning wheel and watch whatever we land on?" And I'm like, "There's no way," because I feel like even my downtime, my relaxing time, should be productive in some way. So I may be wired differently than most.
I know I find that hilarious because my husband does something very similar.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, the amount of time that we spend scrolling, looking for something out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of content that we have out there, movies and, and the different programs,
Yeah.
right? There's documentaries, there's movies, there's YouTube where we
Yeah.
learn. And of course, as creators,
Yeah.
something that you're always diving into is learning from others and seeing how things are done because it just opens us up to more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I think I'm going to be good friends with your husband because he and I have got the similar mindset. So,
I think so too, and I think that he met you. Now let's talk a little bit about that too, because you have a past journey with
mhm,
Maverick, the
mhm,
gas stations,
yeah.
correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And I know that I had a few dates to Maverick
Mhm.
a number of times where we go out dancing and then we go to Maverick and we get some iced tea. And
Uh-huh.
it was like, it was one of the coolest places to go because of the branding and
Well,
because
thank
of how
you.
it appeared. And it was clean and it was big. And it was like, this is where I want to go if I'm going to go to a gas station. So let's hear a little bit about that. What's
Let's
been
unpack the Maverick brand. That's a great idea. It's a fun story. Um, it all began like a story. It all began back in 2001. So it's been a little minute. But in 2001, I was approached by a advertising media company that was placing media or buying ad time for a Maverick. But they wanted a new TV commercial. And so I was known, my company was known for producing really creative marketing materials. And I was introduced to one of the owners, third generation owner of Maverick. And I sat down with him for lunch and we talked about TV commercial ideas. Now, Maverick at that time was known for the cowboy Western brand. It was Maverick Country Stores. Everything about the brand was Cowboy West. And even they had a Maverick cowboy mascot. All of their design elements, their marketing materials, their even the store design were kind of filtered through this Western cowboy lens. The problem was third generation owners did not like the cowboy Western brand. They wanted to get away from that, but it was a 65-year-old company, and that's a big change.
yeah.
So what he wanted to do was actually just do a TV commercial that had nothing to do with the brand, just to kind of promote the products. The problem with that is that when you do a series of TV commercials or any kind of marketing material over time that is not congruent with the brand, it loses brand identity. It loses strength in the brand. And so I said, well, if you don't like the cowboy thing, let's come up with another brand. He's like, how do you do that? Like, what would you suggest? Because his brand, he felt the DNA was Cowboy West because that's where it started. That's how it was born. And I said, let me do a little bit of research. And so the first step in developing a brand is to identify the brand spark. What is the unique difference between one company or product and another? Well, the convenience store world, there's not a lot of difference between one convenience store and another convenience store. They sell the same products, the same gas, nachos, hot dogs, Snicker bars, beer, energy drinks. The products are nearly identical. So how do you create preference from one brand to another? Well, first we need to do a little bit of research to discover, kind of do a little bit of fact finding about what would people feel would be a strong or interesting difference. Well, we just did there was 8 of us that worked at my company at the time. We did a little road trip where we had talked to a whole bunch of customers of convenience stores and asked them what their attitudes were about convenience. Well, most people don't like going to a convenience store because they have to buy gas. And no one gets excited about gas buying day. It's like, today's the day to buy unleaded. They look at the prices, they're upset. They go in, they feel like they're getting robbed. And so that experience at a convenience store gas station is not favorable. All the products are overpriced. So this is not a good thing. Well, we discovered that there was a difference in attitude when people were going on their way to their favorite activity: hunting, fishing, hiking, snowboarding, skiing, you name it, boating. And what happened is they created this association of giving themselves permission to buy the things that they enjoyed at a lower price tolerance. They weren't so worried about price on their way to their adventure. And so they created these emotional positive feelings about they're beginning their adventure at a convenience store. And so we thought, what if we capitalize on this attitude and developed a tagline or a theme for Maverick that was adventure's first stop? And what was cool is what we discovered really is that the spark behind the Maverick brand wasn't Cowboy West. It was this independent spirit, and that was being conveyed visually and in a kind of personality of a cowboy Western theme. But that independent spirit can be represented and expressed in different ways. And so we thought, can adventure be the visual catalyst to represent this independent spirit? We're like, absolutely. So we presented this themed idea: billboards, storyboards for TV commercials, visuals inside the store for this adventure theme. Well, we presented it to the board, and they all freaked out about it. They loved it. And so we began this very slow rollout where the logo was modified a little bit to take out some of the Western serifs, the Western styling. We changed the color palette to go away from orange and brown to black, white, and red. And we just did this full transformation where we basically created this lens. We called it the adventure lens. And through that lens, every element or every touch point of the customer experience had to be filtered through the adventure lens.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's how it started.
Yeah, the adventure lens is on brand point also, specific to them. And so that's incredible. You certainly turned something totally around where you're coming from something that has been really rooted for a while and transitioning into something fresh, something new while keeping it. And it is difficult to create change because a lot of people don't like change. I mean, take Blockbuster, for instance. They were like, no way, we're not changing. And then now they're not here anymore. And so something that I heard too, Ernie, was the importance of really doing research with the public, with the community. What do the people want? What do they desire? And I think that that's incredible, where no, we don't like going to the gas station because there's this like negative energy about it, having to pay for gas, which is essential, but who wants to? And but yet when we go to the things that we love doing, when we love to go ski, or we're going to the kids' sports games, and we're grabbing those snacks and the essentials and the worms for fishing or whatever, and creating that excitement, it just raises the energy levels so much more. They're purchasing more because of it, and brilliant.
Yeah. It turned out to be a fantastic company. I think so. I worked. My company serviced Maverick for about 9 years, and then their marketing director left, and they were looking for another marketing director. And one of the owners reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know you have your own company, but would you consider working for us, being our internal executive director of marketing?" And it was kind of interesting because I felt like I was like the mechanic of the Formula One race car. So I was designing it and putting it together, and I knew the engine was super powerful. I knew it had the aerodynamics. I knew it had everything it needed, but I was always watching somebody else drive it. And it was my turn to drive the Formula One race car. And man, I put the pedal to the metal. I wanted to see how far we could take it. And so I worked there for 8 years and had a blast building, kind of refining and sharpening and kind of fulfilling the brand that I had envisioned. And just so you know, all the listeners need to know too, a brand and marketing can never be done by one dude. There is always a team behind it.
Mm.
The Adventures First Stop tagline, not my idea. The illustrations began with my illustrations that you see in the interiors of these stores, but there were several illustrators, phenomenal illustrators, that added their genius to creating a better brand lens than I created. So there were women that worked with me that were just, when it came to brainstorming, nobody was better. And you had to have Kristen come into the room to spark better ideas. It's like most of the ideas we ran with, I swear, were hers, because she knew the brand so well and she was so brilliant that she would be able to kind of like spin up ideas that we would then execute. So like a team, I get credit for doing what a team did, and it was always a team. So
Yeah. I think that's so important that you mentioned that, because you're right. And so much more powerful when you're working with other people and combining all the minds.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I love this journey with Maverick. That's incredible. Something that I really think is neat that you mentioned, Ernie, is that
Mhm.
you transitioned from one role play to experiencing another. And
Yeah.
when I talk about boots on the ground or in business or stepping up into leadership positions, it's always nice to know all of the different aspects of the company, of what they offer. So you have a better way to lead because you have an understanding of all of those things.
Mhm.
And what that must have felt like when you're asked to lead a different position, from what you're used to, and going from kind of back and forth from this entrepreneurial journey to working for somebody else, and kind
Mhm.
of weaving that throughout career.
Yeah, that was a big challenge because I had been working for myself. I worked for an ad agency for 2 years, and then I was doing my own thing for like 15. And then I'm working for another company. And that mindset was so weird. That was weird because I still acted as an entrepreneur. I didn't play the politics of the office. And so
Right.
it I didn't gel all the time. I didn't say yes to my boss when I knew he wanted me to say yes. I I just said, "Look, you hired me for a reason. I I'm going to tell you what I really think." "Well, Ernie, I don't think that's right." "Well, you're my boss. You can do whatever you want, but you want my ideas, right? And I could be wrong, but you don't need to persuade me to think, to think the way you do. Just disagree with me and move forward." That's okay. But I'm not going to just play the game. I don't believe in that.
Mm. Wow, super powerful, because there's something that this brings to the table that is not common when you have the experience of doing so much on your own. It's your own baby. You're
Mhm.
doing everything, wearing all the hats, until you build the team, and then you're leading and you're navigating all of these different functions in your own business. And then when you go and you're working for another business, you look at things completely different.
Yeah,
You
do.
don't play the game because it's undesirable. You don't want to, and you do have your own thoughts. But not only that, there's this sense of relief or pride, or you just feel okay about what actions you take and decisions you make and what's said, because you're not in fear of losing a position, because that you know that you can build something new again.
Yeah. I think there's something that's really, I want to make sure I underscore, and that is, if I disagreed with my boss, if he did something different, my responsibility was to support him 100%. I was not going, even if it was like completely against what I asked for, in my best judgment, my opinion.
Yeah.
If he said, "Hey, you know what, Ernie, I appreciate where you're going. I'm trying to make sure, I'm trying to convince you to see things my way," even if I didn't see things his way, and he said, "I think we're going to go this way. We're going to go this way." My responsibility was to get 100% behind it. And in business today, there's this weird office politics where you feel like you have to get consensus. You have to get everybody on the same page. Okay. The problem with that is, if you get everybody on consensus, you end up with a mediocre product, because there's the politics in it. Well, you have to have my idea in there too. And then you have to my idea in there too. It's like, no, that's
a decision isn't made.
right. And when the decision kind of like, we get the decision, it's kind of like this amalgam of everybody's ideas, and it's not really strong. So we don't need to get consensus. That is a fallacy. What we need is alignment. Okay, we know we're going to go, we know the goal is this. How we get there is not as important. So if my boss disagrees with me and he decides this is where we're going, or the CEO says this is where we're going, we have to get in line. We have to like, okay, I'm going to use all my creative genius, all of my experience to help you, boss, leader, get to that, to execute on that plan, even if it wasn't my idea. Unfortunately, what happens is, if anything goes wrong, we feel, and I see this a lot, we feel that we have to say, "Yep, I knew that wasn't going to work. I tried to warn him." And
blame.
man, that is so toxic.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's one of the reasons I no longer like working in the corporate world, because there's too much of this social, it's kind of like a social currency of trying to feel like I'm adding value by my opinion, versus I'm just a cog, and that's okay. I'm an important cog in the bigger machine, and I'm going to work as well as I possibly can. And sometimes I'm going to need greased, and that's okay. That takes a little bit of humility to say, "Yep, I need a little grease. That's okay."
Yeah. Yeah. Humility is definitely there. And I revert so much to the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where seek first to understand, and getting those win-win scenarios to move forward.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I'd love to, can I change directions with you real quick?
Of course.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
We have this very candid, easygoing format. So you're awesome. I want to talk a little bit about in the title of the show is Silencing the Dreamkiller. And the reason I want to kind of like bring this up is I want to make sure we had some time for it, because as a high achiever, a high performer, and I think a lot of your listeners, they're like, the reason they're listening is because they want to improve themselves. They want to be better. They're looking for nuggets that they can implement in their lives, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
here's me. So I've got this, I started a company, and in this company, I started other businesses. Like I started a television show called Extreme Tourist, where I would go as the host to these different places around the world and show the fun things that you can do without alcohol, and by being a healthy person, like kiteboarding in Belize, or rappelling in Colombia, or whatever, deep sea diving, or spearfishing in Hawaii. what are the kinds of things you can do in these cool adventure locations? I wrote a book. I wrote a children's book. So there's all these things I've tried to do, but what I was finding is that the outcomes of the efforts that I was investing in, they weren't yielding the fruits that I was hoping they would. And I remember being like a couple years before I left Maverick, I was finishing a book. I was writing a book called Your Brand Sucks. And I had spent, I think it was about 400 hours writing this book. And it was kind of done. I thought it was done. I sent it to an editor to kind of give me some like, will you please help me fix grammar and spelling errors and stuff? And about 2 weeks later, this editor said, it's not even ready for that. The formatting is wrong. You need to change the structure of your book. And she gave me like a couple pages worth of like general instructions. And man, it was brutal. That like, I thought I was 90% done. And it turns out I'm like 50% done. And I've already spent like 400 hours on this book. By the way, there should be a special prize given to authors with ADD because I could not finish a sentence without thinking in the middle of that sentence, like 12 different ways to finish it, let alone a paragraph or a chapter. So I finally get this book in a format that I thought was right on after doing the things that the editor asked me to do. And I started looking for book cover designs. I wanted to see like what other branding books were out there and what their book cover designs looked like, because I wanted my book to stand out. Duh, I'm a branding guy. It better stand out. What title should I use? Because this is before I called it Your Brand Sucks. And there were so many books on branding. Like I had read several, but the more I looked at these books, the louder this voice in my head was like, Ernie. That's the sound of my voice. I call it the Dreamkiller. Ernie, no one's going to buy your book. Does the world really need another book on branding? Give it up. Save yourself the time and effort. No one's going to buy it or read it. So why even try? And then he goes on top. Everything else you've done has been a failure. What makes you think this will be any different? And it was like, boom. I was convinced that the Dreamkiller had my number, that he was right. And so I stopped writing the book. I'm like, the television series I produced, the animated series, the books, all these things that I had spent a lot of time and effort on just didn't yield the results that I thought they should. And so I started thinking about all these failures, and I became a very different Ernie. You see me as this effervescent, excited, energetic dude. And I was like, somebody had unplugged me. And I was kind of moping around. The executive team, the VP executive team at Maverick went to an offsite to do some planning. And one of my colleagues noticed that I was not my usual effervescent self. And he said, dude, what's wrong? And all of these failures had been building pressure inside my soul, like a warm can of generic root beer being shaken. Okay. And I barfed my failures all over this guy. Blah, 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 right. And after listing all of my failures, he looked at me with this incredulous look and goes, dude, you get credit for trying. And I'm like, by the way, if you're an athlete and somebody tells you, oh, it's just a game, like that is the worst thing you can say. Right. So, but he says, hey, do you get credit for trying? But for some reason, what I heard in that moment, this kind of like a crystallization of my definition of success changed. And it was, success is not the outcome. Success is trying. It's the effort. And I'm like, the amount of effort I put into all of these things is the success. Not if I sell, like writing the book, something I can control 100%. I can write the book. Whether it sells 1,000,000 copies or not, I don't have any control over that. So why forfeit my definition of success to something that's out of my control?
Mm.
And so this new revelation of a new definition of success allowed me to silence that dream killer and go, look, it doesn't matter if I sell 1,000,000 copies. I'm going to write the book. And then if I can write the book, I can create a plan to sell the book. It may not reach my goal, but I can crush the plan. Like I can develop a plan, crush the plan. And if I learn from crushing the plan, then I can change the plan. Then I can crush that plan. It's like the success that I want, that any of us want, will be inevitable if we learn how to like crush the plan. The problem is we kind of give up on our plan because it's not getting us where we want to go. We go, oh, it's a failure. And I'm like, no, just crush the plan. And if you need to modify the plan, no worries. We're plan crushers. That's what we do.
Planning crushers. I love that. Ernie, this is where we go deeper into the conversation where it's the emotion piece to it, right? Because we all have the dream killer voice.
Oh,
It's this innate piece of being human for whatever reason that we have to strive to harness or get the reins in on. So we're going to go into our commercial, but when we get back, I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper into this.
Okay, let's do it.
Stay tuned. Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone. Here with Ernie Harker and the branding specialist. Absolutely. You look incredible. And going into the dream killers, which we all have.
Yeah.
And so your story really consists around writing your book, your first book. And now, when we do that, it is such an emotional process.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really understand that when they dive right in initially, right? You don't realize that there's a lot that's going to be coming up emotionally, that the voice inside our head is going to be, trying to bring us down, because it's true. And I think that's one of the biggest and most challenging things as when we start to create something incredible in the world, or when we go into entrepreneurship or create our own business, it's, well, there's so much out there. What makes you special, unique? Why does your voice need to be heard? I mean, there's a million coaches out there. There's a million this and a million that. And like you said, a million books on branding.
Yeah.
What makes you think that you're going to stand out of the crowd and it should be shown? But we're discussing that it's the journey. It's not about the success, but the journey and what you learn and how you get to change it, and then crushing the idea into, making it different and something new and navigating it in a different way.
Yeah. That I remember, so it was at that retreat where I vomited my failures all over Joey. And Aaron, my boss, he was right there kind of with us. And I talked to him afterwards, like a few days later, and um, he goes, Ernie, you should write your book. You should finish your book. And I go, look, I don't, what am I going to bring to the branding world that no one has ever heard before? And he was brilliant. And he said, you are not there. There is no Ernie in the branding world right now in terms of books. As long as you keep your voice, your personality, your vocabulary, your tone, that is what's going to make an addition to the branding, library that's out there. And that, so it gave me permission kind of to use my sense of humor that's in the book, to be a little more audacious, to be a little more clever. Instead of writing a textbook, I kind of was given the freedom to make sure that when someone reads that book, I want people to go, oh my gosh, I can feel Ernie jumping off the page.
And hence the title was born too.
Mm-hmm.
That's you.
That's right. I would tell people, dude, your brand sucks. I mean, honestly. And the problem is that most brands suck. Most brands, they think of it branding as like this graphic design exercise. Oh, I need a logo and I need a letterhead and a website. And then they start their brand like that. And the problem is they didn't develop a brand strategy first. And the brand strategy is kind of like one of the parts of the brand strategy is to identify, first of all, what makes you different. But the problem is like most people don't go deep enough. And so brand strategy is very therapeutic. Most businesses that I consult with will say, our people make us different. Our quality makes us different. Our friendly service. And I'm like, you do realize
outside of you
that every one of those things is exactly what your competitors say. Yeah. Like, so what makes you different? No, we're friendlier. We have higher quality at a lower price. I'm like, One of my favorite brands right now is a brand called Liquid Death. It's a water brand. Like, they don't even talk about the water. Product has nothing to do with it.
Well, when I first saw it, I didn't even know it was water. I'm like, What is this? Why would I want to drink Liquid Death? That sounds morbid.
It does. It sounds like you're drinking poison, right?
Yes.
But check this. What I love about what Liquid Death has done is they have made a very, very healthy product seem controversial. And so they have all these kids, like it's targeted to kids, but I'm kid-minded.
Kid at heart. Absolutely.
Kids rebelling against the system by drinking water. Yeah. Not beer, not energy drinks.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah. No, I love it too.
But what's nice about that example is they're really not talking about the product at all. In fact, they're talking about water is life. We need water to live.
Yes.
So Liquid Death, it's like that is so counterintuitive, but it is provocative. It's interesting, and it creates a visual and verbal landscape that's highly unique and identifiable.
Yeah.
And it's that personality that is what attracts people. We are drawn to people because of their personalities, not because she has blonde hair, she has pink lips, she has whatever. It's not a features. We're not. It's how we feel about the people. We do the same thing with business. We do business with people that we have a strong feeling about. But if our brands aren't emoting emotion through personality, visuals, story, we basically tell our customers, create a formula that you can determine value by price and features. And so now it becomes this mathematical problem instead of an emotional experience. where science tells us that 95% of all purchase decisions are emotionally based. They're subconscious, emotional based. Good brands know how to tap into that emotional response subconsciously to get us to prefer them and buy from them in a way that's less price sensitive. So if you want to make as much money as you can, stop talking about your darn features and benefits and start creating a relationship and a story behind your product.
Right.
That's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned that it's a very therapeutic
Yeah.
process. It's the branding is you.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of researched it a little bit, definitely not as extensively as you, but really creating that avatar, which is really just a mirror of you.
Mm-hmm.
When you consider who your audience is, and I love going back to the death water. Now I can't remind.
Yeah. Liquid death.
Liquid
Liquid death.
liquid death. It's just even more and more brilliant to me, because you're right. It's this sense of rebellion. It's marketing towards younger generations mostly, and it's water. It's healthy for them. They're not drinking the stuff that's killing them. And now
Yeah.
that we have so much science to back it, but it
Mm-hmm.
hasn't really caught up, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful, brilliant
And
technique. I like
it's
that.
bottled in a aluminum can that is unlimitedly recyclable versus plastic.
Right.
Plastic is killing everybody.
Yeah.
It's plastic is just a terrible thing, and they're using aluminum. It's like liquid death, the healthy energy drink, water, the original energy drink is actually better for the environment too. Like, who would have thunk?
So let's shift gears a little
Okay.
bit, because so I love that we're bringing in that really our branding is us.
Mhm.
It's a therapeutic process.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that from the inside out,
Yep.
right? It's
Yeah.
just that reflection piece, to have fun with it, to really be authentically yourself, and bring that to light, the authentic piece of branding. And that's what people are drawn to, the emotion.
Mhm.
And so you have certainly created that. You inspire others to do that. Now, let's talk a little bit about tools. And when we
Mhm.
talk about AI and marketing and branding insights, let's go into that and how you feel that is really aiding people on this journey once they discover, how they want to show up.
Yeah, well, great segue. I've got to tell you that my perspective of AI comes from a very different place, because you've got to realize I have been trained and I've spent gazillions of hours crafting the ability to draw well.
Mm,
When the TV was kicked out of the house, I was practicing drawing. Every elective I took in high school was drawing and painting and illustration. I went to college and illustrated. I drew every bone in the human body except for the tiny ones in the ears, right? Any bone that would show structure, I knew every muscle in animals, birds. I had to learn how to draw landscapes. I had to get color theory. I had to learn how to use different mediums: charcoal, pencil, watercolor, acrylic, oil. Then I had to learn all these things in the computer, how to use vector illustrations like Adobe Illustrator, and then Photoshop and 3D modeling. I have spent so much time learning how to create images that when you can type in a prompt in Midjourney or Dolly, ChatGPT, and get a phenomenal looking image in seconds without any experience, I am telling you, if there isn't a better case study for disruption, how AI is disrupting, than image generation, I don't know what is.
yeah.
Because before AI came about, if you wanted a custom image of something, you would have to go to a photographer who
Right.
has skill in photography, or an illustrator. And then you'd go to him and say, hey, look, I want this image. Will you help me produce this image? Okay. Days or weeks later, and thousands of dollars you would spend to get something that was great. Or you'd use stock images, which everybody has access to. So it's not unique, it's not custom branded. So to create something customized, you would spend a lot of money and a lot of time getting something. Well, if one of my clients who used to ask me to do illustrations for them can jump on a computer and type it in, and I was getting like 1 or 2 projects a month from them at a couple $1,000 or $1,500 a piece, where is my value anymore?
Mm.
So I look at it on that side, that perspective as a producer, as a content producer, and I go, I hate AI because it's stealing my job. But on the other hand, I go, what if I learn how to use it? I have insight as an illustrator that people who don't know how to illustrate don't have,
Yeah.
which means I can prompt AI tools much, much better to
Yep.
get useful stuff out of it. And what
Yeah,
I've
you know the
discovered,
lingo, you know
yes,
exactly what to tell it, and the deeper, more that information that you can give it is where it's going to give you the best product.
yeah, yep. Same thing
Yeah.
with writers. Writers who can get really great content by using their expertise as a writer to get Chat GPT or other generators to get them good stuff. And
Yeah.
so, but what I've learned is that because these generative AI models, image and text, they're learning from the world. Um, Anybody who uses those tools will get content that is available to anybody. And what ends up happening is that the tools are really, really good, and it's easy to just get good stuff back. I need a illustration or an image of blank. Wow, that's better than I could do. I'm done. Or I need a script to promote this thing or a social media post or whatever. Wow, that's better than I can do. I'm done. Well, the problem with that is the content you get is going to be generic. It's going to be universal, but it's going to be really good. And the temptation is to use it as is. The problem is that everybody's stuff is going to look and feel the same. And with
Mm.
the growth and accessibility of these tools, it's going to be really, really easy for all these businesses who are using these tools to become absolutely similar. So, in
Mm.
order to avoid that, we need to know who we are. We need to know how to describe ourselves, especially in like a solopreneur business. You are the brand, and
Yeah.
you need to be able to describe yourself in such a way that if you were just to type out a description, anybody who knows you would say, I know exactly who that is. That's April.
Yeah, it's brand voice.
Yep. And so if you've been able, once you've defined that, like if I said, I'm a bald guy with glasses and I'm a professional speaker with some brand expertise, like, okay, there's probably a gazillion of us out there. But if I say I'm hyperactive, super energetic, uh, friendly, sincere, like all these things, the better I can describe myself in such a way that other people would recognize me, then my AI tools will be able to do the same thing. I'll
Right.
even use words. I'll say when I prime Chat GPT, when I prime it, I'll say, my name's Ernie. I'm a professional branding expert and keynote speaker. I am highly energetic, friendly, familiar. I use the vocabulary of like a eighth grader. And I like to use words like ignite, spark, uh, light, because my brand is called Earn Burn, and I have an E that's on fire logo. So I wanted to use those vocabulary words with my tone and personality
Mhm.
in the content you provide for me. Well, now when I write, hey, I need a social media post of, I'll drop in a transcript of a video I did, and I'll say, will you please write this in the tone and personality of the brand that I've defined? Now I get a post that sounds like me, that
Yeah.
took me seconds to write instead of minutes.
Yeah.
So it's priming ChatGPT. It's knowing who you are so that you can get really good on brand content back.
Ernie, you have brought so much to our audience today. My gosh, because people don't know this right off the bat. They don't know that they need to be this specific to really create who they are. All of those keywords, the tone, the emotion, the energy, all of those things that really make it, so much more brilliant. And I have this fantasy that more and more and more people are going to step into entrepreneurship or making their own thing because I feel that that is really what helps elevate society is when we're going into our creative state, when we're living our passions and our desires and our dreams and being the light in the world. And there has never been a time in history better to do it than now. I mean, you can look up, hey, can you help me write a marketing plan or a business venture? Like it's just, there's never been a better time than now, period. And I really love that you brought in that there's so much fear around that AI is taking everybody's jobs, that technology is advancing so rapidly because it is, and there's so much fear. And I really like to present and bring people such as yourself onto the show that what if you flip the switch or the script like you did, Ernie, where yes, I can easily say, oh my gosh, now I'm no longer going to get paid for my services because somebody can just get it. But what if I learned how to do this because I know I can do it better because I know the lingo and I know the tips and the tricks. And I've spent a lifetime learning to understand this. And so it's taking advantage of that and learning it and knowing how to communicate with it to your advantage and to be able to use that to help others.
Awesome. Thank you for reiterating that.
Yeah, it's so cool. So, such an incredible interview. I really love this. So, Ernie, is there anything else you want to share with the audience today?
I think as I've been thinking about this conversation, the biggest thing is being responsible. And what I mean by responsible is focusing on our ability to respond to the outward stimuli that we get. Road rage, crappy things going on in our lives, relationships with others, whatever. What's beautiful about the human mind is that we have the ability to respond, to be choiceful about how we respond. So I just want us to be just be responsible, be thoughtful in how we all, and I'm saying you, but me too, is a good reminder. Like the TV was thrown out of my home. I can respond. Somebody cut me off on the freeway. I can respond. I don't have to be reactive. I can be responsible. So that's I would drop that mic after saying that, maybe.
I love that. Cool. Ernie, you have been a fabulous guest on the One Return Life Show. Thank you so much for honoring us here today and for giving so many tips and tricks and sharing your stories. And so I want to make sure everyone knows where to find you. I've had it displayed on the screen for you guys viewing in. And for those of you with listening ears, www.earnburn.com, ERNBURN.com, easy peasy. It's also going to be in the description below. And so be sure to check out all the magic and the book because, when we read books and there's a lot on branding, but this really brings in that human essence. And so very cool. Thank you again so much for being a guest on the show, Ernie.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you so much to our audience. Without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So thank you so much. Goodbye for now. And we will see you next time.